Pakistan's Supreme Court will hear on Monday the dismissal of a no confidence vote against Prime Minister Imran Khan by the Deputy Speaker and the subsequent dissolution of Parliament by the President on the advice of the embattled Premier. A day after taking a suo motu cognizance of the current political situation in the country. President Arif Alvi had dissolved the National Assembly NA on the advice of Prime Minister Khan minutes after Deputy Speaker Qasim Suri rejected a no-confidence motion against the Premier, who had effectively lost the majority in the 342-member lower house of Parliament. Chief Justice Umar Atta Bindial, after taking a suo motu cognizance of the current political situation in the country, said all orders and actions initiated by Prime Minister and President regarding the dissolution of the National Assembly will be subjected to the court's order as he adjourned for one day the hearing of high-profile case. A three-member bench held the initial hearing despite the weekend and issued notices to all the respondents, including President Alvi and Deputy Speaker of the NA, Suri. The Supreme Court ordered all parties not to take any unconstitutional measures and adjourned the hearing until Monday. Former Information Minister Fawad Chowdhury said the ruling given in the National Assembly by the Deputy Speaker for the dismissal of the no-trust motion against Prime Minister Khan was final and could not be challenged in any court of law. Talking to the media outside the Supreme Court, the close aide of Khan said that NA Deputy Speaker's ruling came after completion of constitutional process over the no-trust motion. Sri Lanka's cabinet resigned en masse from their positions at a late-night meeting, further deepening economic crisis in the country, the Education Minister Dinesh Gunawardena confirmed on Sunday. All 26 ministers, aside from President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his elder brother, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, submitted letters of resignation. Education Minister said, Namal Rajapaksa, Sri Lanka's Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs and the son of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, also resigned from all his portfolios. This comes hours after Sri Lankan Prime Minister's office on Sunday refuted the reports of the resignation of PM Rajapaksa and termed them false, adding that there are no such plans at present. Sri Lanka is presently facing a foreign exchange shortage, which has led to a food, fuel, power and gas shortage and has sought economic assistance from friendly countries. The island nation's currency has also been devalued by almost Sri Lankan rupee 90 against US dollar since March 8, and it is witnessing long hours of power cuts. The streets of Colombo wore a deserted look on Sunday as a curfew was imposed on the city on top of a 36-hour nationwide curfew already in force after protests outside the residence of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Protests staged by public were reported from small streets, apartment complexes and multiple areas around the country. The cabinet ministers are presently in an urgent cabinet meeting with President and Prime Minister. More crucial resignations are expected in the coming hours, the English language newspaper Daily Mirror reported. Namal had earlier criticized government's decision to impose an internet blockade. Shanghai on Sunday ordered its 26 million residents to undergo 2 more rounds of tests for COVID-19 as public anger grows over how authorities in China's most populous city are tackling a record coronavirus surge. Residents should self-test on Sunday using antigen kits and report any positive results, Shanghai government officials told a news conference, while a nucleic acid test would be conducted citywide on Monday. The main task is to completely eliminate risk points and to cut off the chain of transmission so that we can curb the spread of epidemic as soon as possible, said an inspector from Shanghai Municipal Health Commission. Essentially, all of China's financial capital is locked down after the city began curbing movement in its eastern district last Monday, extending the restrictions to the entire city days later. Shanghai's lockdown has massively disrupted daily life and businesses. Even as health workers and volunteers work around the clock trying to test the entire population and supply residents with groceries. China's COVID case load remains low by international standards, but spikes in places like Shanghai are testing its previously successful approach of stamping out the virus through strict curbs and aggressive testing and tracing. Shanghai on Sunday reported 7,788 daily locally transmitted asymptomatic cases, up from 6,501 the day before, while symptomatic cases rose to 438 from 260. China is also battling a large outbreak in the northeast province of Jilin. The United States will ask the UN General Assembly to suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council, the US ambassador to the United Nations said on Monday, after Ukraine accused Russian troops of killing dozens of civilians in the town of Bucha. A two-third majority vote by 193-member assembly in New York can suspend a state from the council for persistently committing gross and systematic violation of human rights. Speaking in Bucharest on Monday, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield said Russia's participation on the Human Rights Council is a farce and it is wrong, which is why we believe it is time the UN General Assembly vote to remove them. Since Ukraine invasion began on February 24, the UN General Assembly has adopted two resolutions denouncing Russia with at least 140 yes votes. Moscow says it is carrying out a special military operation to destroy Ukraine's military infrastructure. Russia is in its second year of three-year term on 47-member Geneva-based council. Moscow's mission to the United Nations in New York did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The council cannot make legally binding decisions, but its decisions send important political messages and it can authorize investigations. It last month set up an investigation into alleged rights violations, including possible war crimes in Ukraine since Russia's invasion. 32 members voted in favor of the resolution brought by Ukraine. Russia and Eritrea voted against, while 13, including China, abstained. Kuwait's government resigned on Tuesday, just months after its formation, opening up new uncertainty as the tiny country grapples with worsening political crisis that has blocked critical economic and social reforms. Kuwaiti Prime Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khaled Al-Sabah submitted cabinet's resignation to the Crown Prince, state-run news agency reported, ahead of a no-confidence vote in Parliament later this week that sought to remove him from office. It marks Kuwait's third collective government resignation in the past year and a half. A host of new faces, including some picks to appease opposition blocs, had been appointed to ministerial posts as recently as December, with their resignation now reflecting their failure to make reforms. Opposition has been mounting against Sheikh Sabah. Angry lawmakers howled him in for extensive interrogations last week over his alleged corruption and mismanagement. They publicly declared him unsuitable and called for a new prime minister to tackle country's problems and secure badly needed reforms. Cabinet's resignation comes after Defense and Interior ministers submitted their resignations earlier this year. Exasperated, the two senior ministers decried their inability to make anything happen in oil rich Kuwait because of parliament's rowdy opposition. Lawmakers increasingly in recent months have expressed their political frustrations and mistrust by questioning various unpopular ministers and stalling major projects. Although soaring oil prices amid Russia's war in Ukraine have recently created a windfall, Kuwait, they have also served as a reminder of nations' utter dependence on oil revenues and need to diversify. The UN Health Agency says nearly everybody in the world breathes air that does not meet its standards for air quality, calling for more action to reduce fossil fuel use, which generates pollutants that cause respiratory and blood flow problems and lead to millions of preventable deaths each year. The World Health Organization, about 6 months after tightening its guidelines on air quality, on Monday issued an update to its database on air quality that draws on information from a growing number of cities, towns, and villages across the globe, now totaling over 6,000 municipalities. WHO said 99% of global population breathes air that exceeds its air quality limits and is often rife with particles that can penetrate deep into lungs, enter veins and arteries and also cause diseases. Air quality is poorest in WHO's Eastern Mediterranean and Southeast Asia region, followed by Africa, it said. After surviving a pandemic, it is unacceptable to still have 7 million preventable deaths and countless preventable lost years of good health due to air pollution, said Dr. Maria Neira, head of WHO's Department of Environment, Climate Change and Health. Yet too many investments are still being sunk into a polluted environment rather than in clean, healthy air. The database, which has traditionally considered two types of particulate matter, known as PM 2.5 and PM 10, for the first time has included ground measurements of nitrogen dioxide. Last version of the database was issued in 2018. Nitrogen dioxide originates mainly from human generated burning of fuel, such as through automobile traffic, and is more common in urban areas. Foreign debts and loans taken from China have led to the worst economic crisis in Sri Lanka. The country is currently facing an acute shortage of food, fuel, and all essential commodities in the country. The debt ridden country is unable to meet the ends of its own people. While speaking to India today, leader of opposition Sajith Premadasa said, post 2009 war with the rebels, Sri Lanka looked at China for financial help. Taking loans from various countries, Sri Lanka's total external debt surged to more than $45 billion, of which around $8 billion was from China. Sri Lanka borrowed $1.2 billion from China to build Hambantota port. The island failed to run the port and to pay the debt back to China. They negotiated and handed over the strategically critical and crucial port, which was very close to the international maritime route, to the Chinese on lease for 99 years. Shashi Dhanadunke, economist and former chairman of a shipping corporation and vice chairman of the Civil Aviation Authority, said Hambantota port is no longer in Sri Lanka's control. In 2017, the debt-ridden country handed over the port city to China as it was struggling to pay the debt of several Chinese firms. Whatever money it earned also vanished by paying off debts. Loan from China followed by COVID outbreak and failed port city project in Swikens added to the financial fiasco in Sri Lanka. He said, adding, now Lanka is living on credit card given by China as China refused rescheduling and offered only another loan that could lead to selling more national assets. In a high octane midnight drama, Pakistan's embattled Prime Minister Imran Khan was voted out of power as 174 members of the country's National Assembly went against him during the voting on the no confidence motion. Imran Khan, the cricketer turned politician, has become the first sitting Prime Minister in the history of Pakistan to be removed from office through a no confidence motion. No trust vote was mandated after Pakistan's Supreme Court on Thursday unanimously struck down the ruling by Deputy Speaker Qasim Suri on the rejection of the no confidence motion against Imran Khan. With Imran Khan's departure as Pakistan PM, the stage is clear for the leader of the opposition and Pakistan Muslim League President Shehbaz Sharif to be country's next Prime Minister. The National Assembly will reconvene at 2 p.m. on Sunday to officially elect the new Prime Minister. While voting for the no confidence motion faced multiple delays, the Imran Khan government filed a review petition in the Supreme Court challenging its decision to restore National Assembly and declare the ruling of the Deputy Speaker as unconstitutional. The petition urged Supreme Court to review, recall and set aside its order, which is based on errors floating on the surface and the captioned causes be dismissed or discharged. On March 8, Shehbaz Sharif tabled a no confidence motion against Imran Khan government in the National Assembly. The opposition claimed that the move was brought on the background of claims of corruption and economic mismanagement against Imran Khan government. In a powerful show of support for Ukraine, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was seen walking through the streets of war-torn Kyiv with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky by his side on Saturday. Johnson had made a surprise visit to the Ukrainian capital and pledged additional financial and military aid to the Eastern European nation to bolster its resistance against the invasion by Russia. During his jaunt through downtown Kyiv, which was besieged by Russian forces mere weeks ago, Johnson was seen waving to and interacting with city's residents while armed security personnel flanked him and Zelensky and kept a sharp lookout. At one point, a Ukrainian man stopped Johnson and seems to offer thanks and praise for his efforts. British leader responded by stating, "It is nice to meet you and it has been privileged to help. You have been a remarkable president, Mr. Zelensky, who has done an outstanding job. We simply wish to keep supporting the people of Ukraine for as long as it takes." At their meeting in Kyiv, Johnson told Zelensky that UK would provide armored vehicles and anti-ship missile systems along with additional support for World Bank loans. Britain also will continue to ratchet up its sanctions on Russia and move away from using Russian energy, he said. Ukraine has defied the odds and pushed back Russian forces from the gates of Kyiv, achieving the greatest feat of arms of 21st century. Johnson said in a statement, "It is because of President Zelensky's resolute leadership and invincible heroism and the courage of Ukrainian people that Putin's monstrous aims are being thwarted." Boris Johnson was the latest foreign leader to visit Kyiv after Russian forces pulled back from areas around the capital just over a week ago. With new coronavirus variants emerging every 4 months on average, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has cautioned that COVID-19 pandemic is far from over as large outbreaks are spreading in Asia. Guterres also called for governments and pharma companies to work together to deliver vaccines to every person everywhere. In a video message, One World Protected, Break COVID Now to Gavi COVAX Advanced Market Commitment Summit 2022, Guterres said Friday that the gathering is a critical reminder that the COVID 19 pandemic is far from over. We are seeing 1.5 million new cases each day. Large outbreaks are spreading in Asia. A new wave is sweeping across Europe. He said, adding that some countries are reporting their highest death rates since the start of the pandemic. He said, Omicron variant of the coronavirus is a startling reminder of how quickly COVID-19 can mute and spread, especially in the absence of high vaccination coverage. While some high income countries are preparing for their second booster doses, one third of the humanity remains unvaccinated, he ruled. This is a brutal indictment of our deeply unequal world. It is also a prime breeding ground for new variants, more deaths, and increased human and economic misery, he said. Guterres said the next variant is not a question of if, but of when. We are far from our target of every country reaching 70% vaccination coverage by the middle of this year, and with new variants emerging every 4 months on average, time is of essence, he said. He added that governments and pharmaceutical companies need to work together to deliver vaccines to every person everywhere, not just in wealthy countries.